For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Merry Christmas to ya. And I have to, happy holidays, right? The Hanukkah, the Kwanzaa, the whatever it is that you celebrate. This is one of those things where it's so bizarre that if I wish you a Merry Christmas because that's what I celebrate, suddenly I am, against other cultures, religions, whatever, and I don't even know a freaking thing about the Bible or the church thing. Like I don't know. My family just celebrates Christmas. We have a Christmas tree in my house. My husband and I buy presents for each other. We, dress up the dogs. That's what Christmas is to us. It's not about the Bible story of wise men, and I don't even know what the freaking story is for Christmas. We just celebrate. It's a time for togetherness. And so that's what I'm talking about on the show this week. It's not about believing things. It's not religious. It's what you make of it. And I think a lot of people had this sort of eye-opening moment when the shutdowns happened during the pandemic because you couldn't have this, you couldn't do this, you couldn't be there, you couldn't be here, you couldn't do anything. And a lot of people got depressed by that, and I can understand that. But for my husband and me, for me personally anyway, it was kind of like, hey, you know what? It's kind of nice just having a low-key Christmas because, first of all, we don't really care for kids, and there's a lot of screaming kids in our family on my parents, my mom's and my dad's side, and we just sort of keep it casual now, and that's okay. And then people sort of get depressed or sad for you when you go and say like, no, we didn't really do anything on Christmas, kind of just hung out. Oh, well, you could have come over. And it's like, well, I wasn't, no, this isn't a bad thing that we were just kind of on our own. That's just how we wanted to do things, So for anybody who is either on their own for Christmas or the holidays, and that's another thing too, you get jumped on where, because I don't go around saying happy pride to everybody. Suddenly I'm a gay homophobe. I'm a homophobic gay. What would be the term for that? Somebody who's against their own people. And I've also said too that, was it last year or 2 years ago? Anyway, somebody had wished me Happy Hanukkah, and I was like, "Yeah, thanks, Happy Hanukkah to you." But then somebody said, "Well, why you didn't say that you're not Jewish?" I said, "Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're being nice. They're actually saying something pleasant to you. I mean, okay, I don't celebrate New Year's. I don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I don't. But if somebody says Happy New Year or Happy St. Patrick's Day." Thanks, Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. Like, I don't know why that offends us. Now, is it only the religious and cultural holidays that are a problem? Because, I don't know. Nobody ever says, nobody says Happy Hanukkah to you as like a slam, as though it's an insult, as if they're telling you off. It's a well-intentioned greeting, isn't it? I mean, maybe, am I just lost here? This is why we just sort of keep to ourselves. I've said on the show before, we're not into this segment yet. We're just doing the intro. Yeah, I'm going to keep going. People have said like, oh my God, your husband's a Brazilian fitness model, and he's not one of those Instagram models. His career is actually a fitness model for, magazines and different sporting good line. And, so people go and say, like, you guys, and even when I was on the radio, you do red carpets and you travel everywhere. Like, I can't believe that you're not all over social media. And I said, I don't give two shits about it. I honestly don't. Because, why aren't you? And I wasn't even on Instagram until people said, you and your husband are so cute together and you've got these dogs and you've always, you're always dressing them up. Well, okay, but it's also just kind of my life. I don't know. And that was one thing that I said to my husband when we first got together. He came to Canada at Christmas time that year. And I'd said from the very beginning, we're not posting pictures, because he was really big into social media at the time. And I just said, yeah, no, it's a different kind of a life here. He was in Brazil, I was in Canada. And I said, like, when we're together, it's us together. It's not us for everybody else to watch and to look at and to go, oh, and to be, it's not. It's our time together. And we've kind of just maintained that, lifestyle or that attitude. And I remember when he first came, he was like, well, are we going to go to nightclubs and we can go dance bars and everything? And I said, I mean, you can, if there's people that you want to, meet and get together and do that with, but that's, I was in my mid-30s at the time. I was kind of like, I'm sort of done with that now. And it's not that he's like 19, he's, 3 years younger than me. So yeah, it was just kind of like, now people say old married couple. That's not a bad thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd rather be an old married couple that's homebodies and just content with keeping things simple, as opposed to being the bitter old married couple that's always on each other's case and snapping at each other. There's a couple on my dad's side of the family, and I won't say their names, but that was always the reference where people would be arguing and be like, oh, okay, and then say the two names. I'm just going to make up names, okay, here. Let's say John and Judy, let's say. And, oh, come on, John and Judy. When somebody was arguing, maybe it's your cousins, maybe it's my brothers, or my brother and his wife, and I'd say, John and Judy, come on now. And everybody just got it, because it's like, oh yeah, that's the miserable old couple in the family, and you don't want to be that. It was a bad thing to be John and Judy, and yeah, we don't get that. So anyway, so on the holiday theme today, I can't even say Christmas theme, but on the holiday theme today, I'm kind of talking to like the singles, to the homebodies, to the people who are just kind of on their own. Have a great time, and I'm going to tell you why you should not feel bad about it on the Scribble, 7 minutes into the show, and it starts right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
JB here, back on the Scribble. There was a few months ago a social media person. I don't like calling them influencers, so it's just such a stupid word and title and whatever. Because really, I mean, when you think about when these people run out of steam, because that's eventually what's going to happen, right? Whatever their stupid videos that they make. There was that guy who got shot at a mall because he was like pranking something. He was approaching people and making them uncomfortable, and then the guy shot him. Like, eventually, you run out of steam. It's just like any creative, like as a writer, as a, you eventually, and especially with these people, like you have to maintain your audience or else they're just going to leave you. They're not going to follow you for much longer. And so this person had, I guess, made comments. She was a female, had said this, that she was just saying, like, I'm enjoying being single. I don't have to rush home and get the kids to bed. I don't have a husband or boyfriend like on my case about where I was, who I was talking to. And she just got lampooned for a bunch of different reasons, right? So she was basically moms came after her, feminists came after her, and it's kind of like, well, wait a second. She's actually kind of saying, I don't need a man in my life. I don't need kids to feel complete. But society, apparently, according to comments, makes, a woman feel like you have to do those things, or else, you're in your 30s and you're single. That's a bad thing. And I mean, for me, I was single much of my life. Now, again, you're going to say, well, you're a white guy, whatever. But I was also a gay white guy. So it's a little bit different. Back in the day when we didn't have internet and dating apps and things like that, where you actually had to go to a bar or to, whatever, an art class or, somewhere to meet people. And I've never been on a dating app. We talked about that on the show several months ago, where I that's all beyond me. I've seen them. I've now understood kind of what they are, but I also hear from people that they're annoying as all hell to be on a dating app because, people are chatting with, 17 other people and people are treating it like it's the Bachelor and Bachelorette, where it's the People's Choice Awards, where you have to be the, leading the pack and get be the most provocative and capture the person's attention. And I've even said, I would never do that. Why would I? I'm not going to go and be like, doing a song and dance to try to impress you. No, you're going to give me your time because you want to give me your time, because I deserve the time, and I'm not going to throw myself at you to win your attention and affection. It's just going to have to be mutual like that, just as I don't even know that I would be able to juggle getting to know 7, 8 different guys at the same time, and then, weeding it down to whoever. Like, I don't just, for me, it's kind of like, okay, you're the person I'm focusing on, and this is what we're doing, and we go where it goes. And if it doesn't go anywhere, then I jump back into the dating pond or pool, whatever it's called, and, choose somebody else and then pursue that person. But it's that one and only person. It's not even a matter of just being loyal. It's just, I don't want to spread myself that thin, because I'm going to be investing that time and energy into a person that I wouldn't even be able to. It's not like I'm going to, okay, well, I'm going to do a video chat with this guy from 7 to 8. I'm going to take a 10-minute break. You're almost treating it like work meetings. And then, okay, I'm going to call him at 8:30. And it's like, no, that's just weird. I had I'll talk about one of my cousins. I've talked about her on the show. I had a conversation with one of my cousins. She's in her 50s now. She was married and has split from the husband and has 2 grown kids, but they're, out of the house and on their own. And I had dinner with her, and she was telling me all about her dating app or dating whatever website experiences and the games that the guys play and how they were, that they were bad guys and then she starts telling me about how she has, the term catfished. She has gone and catfished them and watched them and made fake profiles just to kind of test them. And I just kind of thought, one, if you're still interested in them and you're putting yourself through that, that's a little bit weird. But then secondly, I mean, why would you want to be in that sort of arrangement where that's the base, that's the starting point of your relationship. That's kind of the starting point. So yes, I have found a great guy and we've got a wonderful, relationship and marriage, and he's hot as all hell and he's muscled and tattooed and tanned and, big beefy guy. But let me put it this way, is that if he was not in my life and I was still single and being, 41 like I am, I wouldn't have seen that to be a problem. I wouldn't be, and for, like I said, most of my life I was single, so I always heard that at family get-togethers. Oh, when you getting, you're the only one not married yet. Oh, but here's the thing. I was the only one not married, but still had energy, a positive disposition, just a great outlook on life. And so, you sit and think about that and go, why would I want to ruin that? Why would I want to sacrifice that when I'm the happiest fucking person in this family? And you're telling me to do all the things that have made you miserable. That's what's even crazier to me. Why would I want it? Why would I subject? What's the point? Why, what do I gain from that? So going back to the whole holiday thing and people who are on their own for the holidays, I mean, think about that. I mean, we hear about, I've talked about it here where, especially Thanksgiving, I guess, would be when people have those, Americans mostly, have the fist fights at dinners over politics and whatever. And I'm sitting here going, I've been to hundreds of family get-togethers since I was a kid. Politics has never came up. There's never been an argument where people are mad at each other and storming out. That's just weird to me that people, do that. And so when you're on your own, and I have spent Christmases by myself, it's not a bad thing. I made a joke before. My husband was out of town. He was in Brazil actually visiting family for whatever holiday it was. I don't know if it was Thanksgiving or it was something. And my accountant was like, oh, it was Thanksgiving, because she texted me Happy Thanksgiving. And I was just kind of like, well, whatever. It's not really a holiday when, you're on your own. She immediately called me, and I'm not throwing her under the bus or anything. It was very nice of her to do that, but took that as I'm depressed and I'm alone and I need somebody. And I was like, no. I was just pointing out that, like, if you're on your own at Christmas or even Thanksgiving, are you like decorating the house and doing all this? I mean, maybe you are. I don't know. I lived in my house for about 8 years on my own, and the novelty of setting up the tree or decorating for Halloween. Like, we don't give out candy on Halloween, so that's not an issue. But there were a couple years where I was just sort of like, I'm not having anybody over for Christmas, and like, what's that? And again, it's not it's not like I'm sitting here going, oh, there's no Christmas there, because you make it what it is, right? You make of it what you will. So if you want to go all out and get in the Christmas, I mean, I don't bake, I don't make all of those different Christmas goodies and stuff like that, so it's not a problem for me. The extent of my Christmas, I guess, on my own would be watching the usual movies that I would watch, Home Alone, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. But somebody, like, let's say my mom, who does the baking and the wrapping of presents, she entertains and hosts Christmas for me and my husband and I and my brothers and their kids and wives and whatever. And so it's just different. That depressed my mom during the pandemic when, the usual traditions weren't upheld because they couldn't be, right? It wasn't allowed. And for us at my house, the husband and the dogs, it was kind of just like, well, it's kind of new, but it's also kind of nice. It's quiet. It's our own pace. We're not having, nobody's dictating that, okay, presents now, everybody presents. And like, you got to sit where find an open spot, or like, it's just, I don't know. So what are we doing this year is the big question. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I have no freaking idea, and we're still a few days away from Christmas, but it's not anything that's very well planned out. I mean, the first time that he was here, like I said, was at Christmas. He was very overwhelmed because it was on Christmas. He got here on Christmas Eve, and literally within the hour of landing in Canada, touching snow for the first time, meeting me in person, was kind of like, great, nice to see you at the airport. Okay, let's go to my house. You're going to meet the 2 wild dogs. You've got no time to shower, even though you're just traveling for 27 hours on the plane. And English isn't your best, language. And you're going to meet half of my family. And that was kind of fun, obviously, for him. Well, he wasn't scared to meet the family, but it was just obviously a lot of newness, a lot of new experiences all at once. And for me, it was kind of fun, too, because here I've got this hot guy that I'm bringing around. And so that was kind of the starting point. And then when he was here for those 4 or 5 days, well, we had 3 days of, he was here for 4 days because we had 3 days of family stuff. And then when he left, it was kind of it. And it was just go. And even he was just like, there's a lot of family members. You guys, there's a lot of togetherness, it was nice for him at the beginning because he's got a very small family and traditions are different in Brazil as well for, Christmas. And then a few years in, that's where it sort of took its toll. And he was kind of like, yeah, I'm good with just kind of hanging out and doing very little. And I'm just like, yes, you are my soulmate. This is perfect. This is what I like. That if we want to go all out for Christmas, we talked about it, maybe it was last year or 2 years ago, last year perhaps, where we're like, let's just go to Mexico or Cuba or something like that. But then you also realize that those places are packed for the holidays. So that's 400 times more people than we'd have at a family get together for Christmas, right? So sort of opposite of what you are, wanting to really spend your time doing at Christmas. So yeah, it's the time of year where people try to make you feel bad for being alone, or there's this this isolation because it's cold outside or whatever, and you're kind of trapped inside. Like, it's what you make of it. Make the most of it. And that's even just the simple things. Like, if it is just a matter of watching those movies that you loved as a kid, for some reason, when I was at home, my brothers would watch Braveheart in the basement. I had a room upstairs. And so they would watch Braveheart, and I would watch Austin Powers or Dumb and Dumber. I don't know. They're not Christmas movies. It was just something that I did. I think maybe because my brothers were watching something, and I felt like I needed to have a movie tradition of my own. I was on my own in my own bedroom. And those were the movies that I watched. And so, I mean, I continued that for years. And I still watch, Home Alone, like I said, and Lampoons. But I don't know. I think if you're telling yourself that you should be having more people in your life and things like that, well, then that's going to make you depressed. But says who, right? And it's the people who, again, the people who are going to criticize you for not having a marriage or kids or whatever. How happy are those people? Because I got a text from somebody. I'm not going to say who it was. It's not a family member, so I'm not throwing any family members under the bus, but a very close friend of mine. And she just rattled off, I can bring it up because I'm not going to mention her name. And she just, a whole laundry list of drama that's happening in her life. It says, I'm seriously considering going on a leave of absence again. Both girls, 2 daughters, are really struggling. I have appointments every week with one of them at the eating disorders clinic that I have to miss work for. I've had to completely take over all cooking for that daughter and making snacks, bathroom duty to make sure she isn't purging her food. Daughter 2, I'm consistently emailing her teachers on top of daughter 1's teachers, taking daughter 2 for regular blood tests to make sure the medication she is on isn't wreaking havoc on her insides. Her mental health is also hanging by a thread. Talking to her therapist on the phone to make sure she is safe, working every evening planning for school, she's a teacher, marking and assessing student work, also doing social media for my husband's company. My mom's health is not good, so I'm worried for her. I have no time to do anything other than take care of everyone. I was homesick last week from Wednesday to Friday, as I was sick as a dog and lost my voice. I'm going back to work. After going back to work, it's almost gone again. And then my washer died. Daughter 2's uniform got stuck in it last night. We had to break it open because apparently the new washers are built more secure than a bank vault. I mean, this was that was basically somebody summing up their life as a mom after over a couple of days. I hadn't spoken with this person for a few days, and that was the download. That was the information drop, and like. Why would I want, really? So for, again, anybody who is shamed for not having kids, everything I just fucking read you, why would you, why? No, thanks. I'm good. I'm good, really. I am. It was just, and so then let's go back to, now I won't name names, but I mean, my brothers are becoming very much like my dad in the sense that they are kind of just, grumbling and we had a family get together recently. I think I've told this story where one of my cousins, he's in his late 40s now. He's in his late 40s now. Not married. He's in a long-term relationship with his girlfriend, and they're just happy living together and doing their thing. It's not official. There's no kids. But they've been together. I don't even know. 10. Well. Yeah, she was around before Charles was. So, at least 10 years. And I said to him, I was sitting with him at the family function that we had, and he'd commented wow, you just have so much energy, in your 40s. When I turned 40, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what the secret is? I was single for the longest time. I had no kids. And he's like, yeah, that's really true, isn't it? And I remember it being sort of a bad thing when all of my cousins and my brother started to have kids, because I was just 18. I could then start to hang out with them and drink with them and go to bars with them. And then all of a sudden, a year or two later, they all start having kids. And I thought, oh crap, you guys just totally ruined it for me, because now it's not fun. Now it's all about your kids. And that's where they are. Now everybody's got, teenage kids, and look at the shit that they're going through. Everything from, eating disorders and mental health and whatever. I mean, it's bad enough managing your own mental health, and maybe perhaps your partner, if your partner is dealing with that. And now you've got the shit that kids go through, and it's just yee. Yeah. So I stopped short of asking people, well, do you regret having kids? Because that's sort of an offensive question, right? I mean, it's a little bit touchy, but I'll flip it around and go and say, if you, just in general, as an adult, if you chose to be single, would you choose to be single, or would you want the big, life with kids and whatever. And obviously people are react, right? Because you framed it as like, it's just hypothetical. Like, I'm just saying in general, I'm not saying your actual kids that you have now. I'm just saying kids in general. Well, they're answering for their actual current situation, right? I mean, that's just, and most of them go and say, because, it's off the record, it's not about my own kids that I have now. It's not my husband that I have now. They say, yeah, I'd rather be single. So, there you go. There you go. So to that social media person, to that influencer, I thought that was great when I saw the video of her commenting on that. Like, I don't know, why is that a problem? That was always the issue that I had with my career back in the day, was I was the only entrepreneur in the family. Now everybody's got some, what is it called, a side hustle? But when I was like 20, 21 living at home, my parents, again, going back to my dad, just, hated every minute of his job. He would always complain about the jerk-offs at head office. He would go in, if he got to work early, he would actually sit in his car and wait until whatever time he started, 8 o'clock or, whatever. So if he got there at like 7:55, he would sit in his car waiting until 8 o'clock. He would not spend a minute extra than he had to working at that same place for 30 some years. And ditto on the way home. 4:30 rolls around, he's out of there. And if he's still there at 4:32 because somebody was talking to him, he is pissed the entire way home. And I mean, I realize that's a symptom of people just, either not liking their job or just the workplace mentality. But that was, hearing that and seeing that when I was in my early 20s, I kind of just thought, work doesn't seem very fun. I had a job from the time I was 13, and I loved writing. I wanted to write. So I was you have to remember, this is before the days of like blogs and all that other crap, before social media was even a thing. And so me doing something on my own, that was unheard, and still is. My parents don't get it. The fact that I retired at 39 and wasn't doing the radio show, like, it bothered my mom. And I just kind of thought, well, Mom, back in like 2010, 2011, I was making $250,000 a year, in your basement. No, I was in my own house at the time, but, yeah, I was making some pretty good fucking money. So don't be concerned about me. I'm not into drugs. I'm not having promiscuous sex. I'm not having babies that anybody's going to have to pay for. And everybody's always kind of been critical of that. Like, my mom would ask me, when am I going to get a real job? And, fast forward all these years later, I'm kind of sitting here going, I kind of had the dream setup where I had no obligation. Again, at 39, I was able to go and say, I can walk away from work. I've accomplished, everything that I needed to. I've done okay. If I want to just lay around and get fucked by my husband 10 times a day, or we just want to, that's my prerogative. That really is. But for some reason, it's bothered people. And so at some point you have to sort of take that step back and go, for whom am I living? Is it to make your parents happy? Is it to, impress your friends? Is it to have the job so that you can get all the toys and fancy things and the neighbors will be jealous of you? I mean, like, why are you living? For whom are you living? And for me, I've never given a shit. I've never cared. If my parents, when are you going to get a real job? If that was their way to motivate me, wow. And remember, my mom was a teacher for 30 some years. So you're a pretty shitty mentor if that's the way that you're going to motivate children, telling them to get a real job and downplaying and discrediting all the hard work they're doing. Because look at what ended up happening. When I was living with my parents, I started doing the radio shows, and a few years later, I was on the red carpets in Hollywood, as I said, making $250,000 a year. So, I mean, you can go and say, get a real job, blah, 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 blah. Well, why would I want to be like you guys if that's what a real job is? Why would I want to spend all that time there? No thanks. No thank you. So, have a happy holiday season on your own, doing sweet fuck all, because that's the dream. That is the dream. If you are single, have no kids, right now, I mean, you might not get responses from people because they're doing their Christmas things or whatever with their, they're wrapping their kids or presents and things like that. Have a one-on-one and just go and say, if you could be single, if you could get rid of that husband or wife, that nagging wife, that inconsiderate husband, that asshole of a husband, and your whiny, bratty kids that are never, would you go back, if as Cher would say, if I could turn back time, would you avoid all of that stuff? if they're not lying, they would probably say yes. I think, it doesn't even necessarily matter if your kids we were good kids at home. We weren't, dramatic. I had my rebellious teen years where, I made my mom cry a couple times, but at the same time, it's like, but look at how I was treated and the things that were said to me. When are you going to get a real job? I would be applying for newspaper jobs and she would hear the fax machine dialing. Younger listeners can Google that. And she would tell me to just give it up already. And I was in my early 20s trying to become a newspaper reporter. And that was my dream. Everybody knew that I was starting to write and I wanted to do that. And then you're going to come down here and say to me, why don't you just give it up already? Nobody's going to hire you. You're not done school. You don't live where they are. You don't have a car, blah, blah. And I just kind of thought, wow, okay. No, there's motivation. Let me just... and instead, it had the opposite effect. It made me actually push even harder to be successful and not let that get me down. So, so if I were to... That would be my only comparison to the kids and marriage thing, which... Well, I'm married, but the kids thing is that if I were to turn back time and flip that around and say, oh, if I listened to my mom's negativity and let her influence me that way... What would have become of my life? I would have given up the whole newspaper. I've been writing for the same fucking newspaper in Manitoba, my home province, for over 20 years now. A weekly column. It's 800 and I don't even know because we've taken some time off, but over 860 some columns or 800 and almost 900 columns for the same newspaper 20 years later. So, and again, best-selling author, the Hollywood stuff with the radio. So, all of these projects just kind of snowballed into each other. Like, if I were to just throw in the towel back when I was 21, when you've got this person who's a parent who you'd think would be motivating you, boosting you up, encouraging you, I was getting the exact opposite. What would have become of my life? So it's not a bad thing to go and say, yeah, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. I could have done this differently. And for parents, maybe you don't want to say to the kids that you regret having them. You don't want to tell your spouse that you regret marrying them, but it's a thought that so I just, I don't feel bad about being alone on a holiday if I am. It's what we make of it. So there you are. Send me an email with your thoughts live at jbonair.com.
For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. We're a little bit over the 30-minute mark, but you know what? It's the holidays, right? We take a bit of time. That's like our family get-togethers when the timing is always off. And me being a radio person, I know things down to the second. So if somebody's, I typically drink at these events, so somebody will pick me up, and often it was my parents because they always were the closest to me. Obviously, my husband, one of us, generally my husband will drive. If I'm going to my family get-togethers, he's the one driving, just because it's my family. I'm going to drink with them to get through it. But that's something that when my parents would pick me up, and it would be like, hey, well, we'll pick you up at 5:15. and they're outside at 5:07, and I'd just be like, no, you told me 5:15, that's what time you're getting me, because I know how long it takes me to get ready. I've got to send the dogs out, I've got to give them treats before I go, I've got to, turn on light or whatever. I know how long it takes me to get ready and leave. And same thing when we're having the dinner or whatever it is at, my cousins or uncles or whatever, and they always say, well, we're going to eat for 5:30. We're eating at like 6:29, and it's just like, it's never on time. So I would show up. So my mom, if my parents had something at their house, my mom would say, yeah, well, we're eating for 5:30, so come for 5. And I would just say, I'm going to come for 5:30. Well, I mean, you can visit for a little bit. I said, because I also know that we're not eating at 5:30. So it's just a dupe, because we're going to end up eating at 6:30 because it's either going to take long or people are going to be late. So I'm good for showing up at 5:30. I will not be late for dinner. There'll be plenty of time to conversate. There'll be plenty of time to converse. We're good. We're good on time. We are. And same thing too when they go and say like, oh well, Christmas will be, everybody's gonna go home by 9:30. We're still there at midnight. I mean, or even just when you're putting on your shoes ready to go, it's always the longest goodbye. Meanwhile, we're gonna see everybody probably the next day, because I've talked about this on the show. We're practically Jewish in our family. Christmas spans a good 4 days, 5 days, because we've got so many people. So it's not uncommon for us to see the same people, 3 days in a row, because that's just how it works. And, okay, all right, well, we're going to go. And then you stand there sweating because you've got all of your winter gear on in Canada. And it's kind of like, yeah, we started leaving 10 minutes ago, but we're still there. Or, your cousins or whoever, you're like, all right, nice, Merry Christmas, we'll see you. And then you end up walking and like going to the front of the house, and they're still standing there talking. And you're kind of like, oh, you guys you didn't go yet? Oh, okay. But that's also just maybe because everybody can't stand to leave each other for the holidays. I'm gonna pretend that that's what it is. But I have to leave you now because it's Christmas, and I don't know why I'm still here talking to you. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Happy holidays to you with whatever you celebrate. Have a good time. Stay safe. Don't be stupid. Don't drink and drive. Don't, all that. I'm not here to lecture you. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real